I'm going to be reacting to your early season NHL hot takes, and I'll determine if they're an overreaction or not. This is part one. The first take here, it was submitted by Truman. Thanks for submitting this take, Truman. We appreciate it. He says, Cale Makar for the Hart. I don't think this is an overreaction. Makar currently leads all NHL players in points with 15 points. And the Colorado Avalanche right now, they don't have great depth. So they're going to need their top guys like Cale Makar, Nathan MacKinnon, and Mikko Rantanen to all have big years in order for them to be considered a contender and possibly a playoff team as well. Cale Makar is also the best defenseman in the world, but there hasn't been a defenseman that's won the Hart Trophy since the year 2000. So that's what makes this a hot take. But honestly, if any defenseman were to win the Hart Trophy, I think it would be Cale Makar. Our next take is from Chris. Chris submitted 2 hot takes to our Instagram story. So thank you, Chris. We really appreciate it. He says Colorado misses the playoffs and Nashville will get in. Now, there's 2 parts to what Chris said here. The first one, Colorado misses the playoffs. I think this was a bit of an overreaction. Now, when Chris submitted the take, the Avalanche were 1-4. They're now 4-4. But even when the Avalanche were 1-4, I just thought there was too much high-end talent between Cale Makar, Nathan MacKinnon, and Mikko Rantanen. I thought they would drag the rest of the team into the playoffs. But Georgiev's been bad in goal. Annanen's been good these last few games for the Avalanche, but can he continue it for the rest of the season? And the depth scoring hasn't been good for the Avalanche. So I don't consider them a contender, but I do consider them a playoff team. Now, the second part of Chris's take here, Nashville will get in. I think this is a prime example of not overreacting. Nashville went 0-5 through their first 5 games, but they've won their last 2. And I just think there's too much talent with the Nashville Predators. I feel at some point in the season, they're going to go on a run and become a playoff team once again. Now, the second take of Chris's here. Chris Knobloch will get fired by game 30 if they aren't over 500. So here's why this isn't an overreaction. Because yes, the Oilers have gotten off to a slow start. They're 3-4-1. And I think they're going to turn it around this year. But it's the wording here that makes this not an overreaction. Chris says if they aren't over 500, not when they aren't over 500. And yes, if the Oilers aren't over 500 by game 30, as Chris says, I also think that Chris Knobloch's job would be in jeopardy. You've seen it last season with Jay Woodcroft. He got good results out of the Oilers in seasons prior, but they got off to a slow start. They weren't happy with it, and they gave him the axe. So I think why not transition from one Oilers take to another? We got Ride Skis who commented on the TikTok. Thanks for commenting, Ride Skis. We really appreciate it. This person says the Oilers barely make the playoffs but go on to win the cup. Now, the part about the Oilers going on to win the cup, I think is absolutely realistic. This team was one of the top contenders heading into the season, so I could definitely see that happening. As for the Oilers barely making the playoffs, I think right now it's still an overreaction. I'm going to need to see more of the season go on for me to say that it's not an overreaction. And yes, there are teams in the Pacific Division that are off to good starts. The Flames and Golden Knights currently, the top 2 teams in the Pacific Division, they're off to good starts. But I think at some point this season, the Oilers are going to take over, and I still think they're going to win the Pacific. But once again, thank you to everyone who submitted hot takes. We really appreciate it. And like and follow so that you can see part 2.